Funded by the European Union's 7th Framework Programme, the Horsegene project united the efforts of multiple European research groups that have been working independently on the genetics of disease in horses for many years. Using reliable state-of-the-art genomic technologies, researchers from Sweden, Belgium, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom set out to identify genetic markers for heritable diseases in horses. With the help of several equine associations, laboratories, stud books and stud farms, 3 diseases were targeted: insect bite hypersensitivity, osteochondrosis, and chronic progressive lymphedema.
My name is Nadine Buys and I'm the coordinator of the Horsegene project. The Horsegene project focuses on 3 diseases in horses. The first one is insect bite hypersensitivity. It's an allergic reaction to the bite of Culicoides midges.
Insect bite hypersensitivity, it's the most common skin allergy in horses. Thereby it has many different names. It's called Kasen in Japan, it's called Queensland's itch in Australia. We're not only looking for 1 or 2 or 3 genes, we're looking for maybe 100.
Since it is a multifactorial disease, as it is called, so it's not only genetics but it is also environment. Therefore we have to disentangle environmental influences from the genetics. That is only possible if you have data collection under different circumstances. Then you can do this correction. And that is possible if you have more countries involved and more breeds. Then it is possible to get a fair idea of that. So in that sense it's good that we have this cooperation.
The second disease is chronic progressive lymphedema in draft horses. That is a disorder that is linked to edema, so a primary edema, which means that you have the accumulation of lymph fluid in the legs of the horse, and it also coincides with not curing very well of possible wounds on the legs.
What is so nice with this project is that it's driven from the SME partners.
We've been asked by the industry to see if we could come up with a breeding program, try to reduce the frequency of these type of diseases.
Chronic progressive lymphedema in draft horses, it's actually a model for humans as well, because it's a primary lymphedema, and there is no other animal that develops primary lymphedema except human beings. And if you want to research that in humans, you cannot use mice or rats or rabbits, the normal experimental animals that are used in this kind of research, because they don't develop it. So it's a really special thing that you have this huge animal, a draft horse, that is actually the only model that you can use to study primary lymphedema in human beings. And then the last disorder, but it's maybe the most important one, is osteochondrosis dissecans, and that's a disorder of the cartilage in the joints.
It tends to affect young growing horses, and you get pockets of cartilage which haven't ossified properly inside the bone. Sometimes you can get flaps then coming off the bone, or chips that come off the bone. These need to be operated on. So it's a disease that causes pain and lameness in young horses. When we started this project, we'd already carried out an initial study in thoroughbreds to look at osteochondrosis. We'd found one particular gene region, but we knew that there were others because the disease is complex, so it's a combination of multiple genes and environment causing this disease. The project itself has allowed us obviously to work together with other groups working on other breeds, but we still feel a need to continue the study by looking at larger cohorts of horses. Ideally, we'd want to look at thousands of cases if we can. To carry out these gene mapping studies usually requires quite large populations of horses. We need quite a lot of affected individuals, and we compare them to control individuals. A lot of studies are done within particular breeds, so you'd focus on a particular breed. In our case, we focused on the thoroughbred racehorse. Other groups within the consortium are working on the warm blood sport horses.
we can make the results of this research relevant to the everyday horse owner. In the UK, we know that the horse owner owns just one horse on average. So one of the benefits of our involvement is that we can bring the results of this research and make it relevant to the everyday horse owner. So we've worked really well together as a consortium, and the research establishments have come up with some fantastic results and analyses. And as technological advances come along in these areas, the value of the data that has been collected and the analyses that have been carried out could well lead to that information becoming more available in future years.
We think that with the new technologies that are becoming available in the very near future, by whole genome sequencing, etc., that we have a better chance of finding the functional mutations and really the genes that are affecting these type of diseases.
The next step for us is we're going to launch a questionnaire which is going to try and establish how people want to receive information about genetics tests. It's going to learn how they understand they work now, what information we might be able to provide to them to enable them to use these tests in the future, and then how much they may like to pay for any genetics tests which may become available. That will then help us, as the small to medium-sized enterprises involved with this project, develop tests and make them available in a way that the people have asked us to do that. One of the benefits of having an organisation like the BEF involved is that it enables us to take the very good work that's been done by the scientists and present it in a way that people can understand. By that I mean we talk all the time in our workshops about insect bite hypersensitivity. To the horse owner, that means sweet itch. And a lot of horse owners have horses that are affected by sweet itch. So I think one of the really good things we can do is to take the advantages of the work that's been carried out and present it to people who have horses that suffer with this very real condition. So make that presentation available to them in a way that they can really use.
As part of the project, we've created a database to house the data that not only that we've generated, but that can bring in data from a lot of other projects going on worldwide.
We can even look at other traits if the horse breeding associations are interested in that, also performance traits. So if we now have the genomic data on these horse breeds, we can do more than just looking at the diseases. If we get other phenotypes that they think is interesting, for example, jumping ability, conformation, gaits and things like that, we can do more for them.
We learn from each other. We also learn from the practice, so that's also good in this whole consortium.
And I think one of the things that's come out of the project for me is really understanding that we can't work as many small groups. It's particularly in the horse industry, it's important that people get together and work together and make the best use of the data that we're generating. It's obviously an expensive exercise in generating this kind of data. And I think this project's a really nice example of how groups can work together, and hopefully we'll take that forward with other groups worldwide.
The strength of this project is that you bring everything together and that you have this consortium of different scientists and they all look from a different point of view to the same problem, and that way you come to insights in the diseases that we would never have had if we would have continued on our own.
So we're so close to the finish line, so we don't want to quit the race now. We're not at the goal yet, but we have created an important and valuable platform for moving further.
That is our effect, our treasure, by which we can continue and come to a solution in the very near future, I hope.
The outcomes of this research for the 3 diseases we're looking at will enable us to inform people how they can use this information to make their own decisions about horses they might want to breed or buy. In other words, if there are genetic markers where we can identify that certain sectors of the population are susceptible to these diseases, breeders can then decide how they deal with that information. And indeed, market demands might indicate that people select against using horses which are carriers for these conditions.
So if you as a horse breeder can sell a horse that is guaranteed free of it, which means that they will not develop the disorder, and so it will be good for animal welfare, that might give you an added value.